This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, in order to, okay, let's start. Set is always been wrapped in floor brackets, and it doesn't have any order, so we can't refer elements with an index. If you want to add an element, you can use add method. Add, let's take 6. Here you can check that it has been added, right? And if you want to update with another set, let's take my set 1, 7, 8, 9. Let's see what happens. So whichever set you want to update, you have to mention it first and then update. And the other set that you want, no, you want these elements. If you want these elements in the set to get updated in this one, you have to write in this format. If you write in this format like my set one dot update, my set one will get update. Okay, and let's see my set, like it has been updated. So new elements 7, 8, 9 came up, right? So it's been added. And you always know that my sets does not entertain duplicates. Let's take let's take update. Again, I'm going to update with 7, 8, 9. Let's see what happens. So you can still see that only 1, 7, and 8 and 9, right? So you don't see duplicates for 7, 8, 9. And then if you want to remove an element, which you can, let's take, I want to remove 9, you need to mention the element and it will get removed. There is another way to remove an element. Let's take discard. Discard is a method. It works just like the way remove works. Like I need to mention the element and it will get deleted. The difference is between remove and discard is my set. Let's take my set remove. If I try to remove a non-existing element, right now the set has elements from 1 to 7, right? Let's take, you want to remove element 8, which don't exist right now. And let's see, you got an error. You got an error, key error, right? Let's use discard and do the same thing. Like you can see that you don't get any error. That is the difference between remove and discard. Discard doesn't throw any error, even if I try to remove a non-existing element, whereas remove will throw an error if you try to remove a non-existing element. Any questions on this?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
So you can, I mean, minus both the sets, right? If you take two set
Yeah,
of sets.
right. We can do that. For example, let's take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4, 5. You got 1, 2, 3. And just like the way we have sets in mathematics, it's going to work the same. I think I have posted an example, right? Last time Dattatreya asked some question, and to that
Yeah.
I have used sets,
Yes.
and then I
List.
converted back to list.
List.
Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. List doesn't have that inbuilt functionality, so we have used sets. I think it makes sense because in sets, and we have sets in Python, it works just like the way it is in mathematics. All right, any questions on sets before we move to tuple? I think we have missed one, right? So we can't assign a value, isn't it? As we can't refer with an index, we can't assign a value.
I have a question, sir. It's a very basic one, though.
Yeah.
Like, the dictionaries, tuples, sets, and all of this. Like, what is the practical use? Like, when exactly do we use which one? I understand, like, different ones have different types of functionality, mutable versus immutable, you know, key value sets and things like that. But when in a practical term do we use these? Like, do we get the data set in such format, or do we convert the data set into such formats? Like, trying to, can you, I mean, I'm not sure if you explained it already, but.
Okay. In most of the cases, we use list. It's just like an array in any other programming language. And you know what's the use case of arrays, right? We use it in many. I will show you, a real-time case when we get into project. Whereas
Okay.
dictionary is like a JSON.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
And sets does not entertain duplicates. So we make use to contain data that doesn't entertain duplicates. That shouldn't have duplicates.
I see. Okay.
Tuples are going to be used internally in most of the case. If you see items, the mydict, yesterday we have seen an example, right? Mydict items, what we got? So we got a list of tuples. So internally, in most of the cases, they use tuples, even though we don't directly use it.
Okay.
Okay. These are some use cases, but you'll see more in once we start doing projects.
Okay.
Any other question? Basically, the question is like we have different data structures. So obviously, there are certain limitations to each data structure, and when do we use in real-time case? That is what the question is, and you will get more. You'll get a better clarification once we start doing projects. And don't worry about it. Most of the case we use lists, and dictionary is kind of JSON. Yeah, Karthik and Dattatreya. I think Dattatreya has joined, right? Yeah.
And nothing.
Any question? Yeah. Dattatreya, any questions?
No, no, sir.
Yeah. Let's take, how to declare a tuple. So it's been wrapped in parentheses, right? So it's basically a round bracket. And let's see whether we can refer the index. Yes, we can. It has an inbuilt order. Can we update? No. Let's see. You can see that we can't update. Okay. But you can slice it. Slice in the sense, let's take 2, 5. We can store this in another tuple. Now it has, I don't know, it has created another tuple, right? We can do that, but we can't update explicitly by mentioning the index. That is one limitation to tuple. But internally, it's going to be used vastly. Maybe the reason that it can't be changed, right? So when someone can rewrite, there is a possibility of data get corrupted. So that might be the reason they use tuples. Any questions on tuples or tuples? And okay, next we'll move on to if condition. So if usually is going to be written like this, right? Condition, and then it's going to be written like this, statement. And if I write another statement here, it's not going to be considered under if block. This is one block, right? So in the same way, like we can write condition like this in Python. We don't require floor brackets because the indent is going to be considered. So if we give an indent, a proper indent, a 4 spaces or tab, is going to, this set of statements will come under this block. And the next statement that doesn't have a 4 space or indent, is not going. This statement is not going to come under if block. This if block. Let's see an example. If let's take 2 is greater than 5, print 2 is greater than 5. Let's write another statement. 2, okay, some junk. You can see that it has been printed because 2 is greater than 5 false, right? Let's make it less than. And let's create another one. Okay, 2 is 5. You can see these two statements been printed just because we have given a proper indent, right? 4 spaces or tab. The fact is there is no such rule that how many spaces we need to give. For example, let's take I have given 8 spaces. It's still going to work, but the industry standard is to give 4 spaces. So don't try to play with this. Just follow as it is, like 4 spaces or tab. Okay. Any questions on this?
No, nothing.
I hope others don't have any questions like Dattatreya. And
No
No, sir.
question from me.
yeah, the next one is while condition. While loop. Let's see how it works. While condition. So throughout Python, we give colon, not to indicate that it is a block. We don't use floor brackets. We use colon and the statements, whatever. Okay. Let's print 1 to 10. While I is less than 10, we haven't declared, we haven't assigned the we haven't initiated the variable, right? Let's initiate the variable 0, maybe 10, or I can write like 1. Print I. What we got? We got 1 to how many? It's a never-ending loop because the I is 1 is less than 10, and it has printed 1. We have not incremented it anywhere, right? So let's increment it. I think we have to stop this process. Okay, anyway, there is a good use case to explain you how to interrupt the kernel. This is a never-ending, I mean, the previous execution was a never-ending loop, right? Infinite loop. That's why it has been, it is still showing asterisk here. Let me interrupt the kernel. You can see that, right? Interrupt the kernel, or else you can go to kernel on interrupt. I have interrupted the kernel, interrupting. I think now you can see a blank space. That indicates that process is not executing. Let me execute it now. Now you can see 1 to 10, right? And the same thing, like we can do it using a range. I mean, instead of, okay, basically what we do is we use list and we write, let's take 7, 8, 9, 10 in order to contain some values, right? Instead of that, we can use range. If we mention 10, it's going to print 0 to 9, excluding the upper bound. So if you want to print 1 to 10, you need to have like this, 1 to 11. Of course, it has not printed 1 to 11. We have to use for loop for that. Let's take 1, 1, print I. You can see that this is much better approach than this one, right? The while loop, we can use range to get any list of numbers between certain range, and we get this. Another thing is like it has step parameter also. Let's take 2. Now you can see that it has printed 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I've already explained you what is the step. I think in what case we have used this step. I think in list slicing, my list : 2 something. That
Yes.
case we have used. The same thing applies on to range also. We can use, let's take 3. It has printed, it has skipped the 2 values in between, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3 being skipped, and 4 has printed, and 5, 6 being skipped, and the third element from 4. So, and 10 is the third element from 7. So that is how it works. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question here. While when you're using while loop, right? So yeah, I plus or plus equal to 1. If you did not use it, so how it is gonna, I mean, print unlimited number of ones? It's like always it is only
Yeah,
1 and it is less than 10, so it will always keep on printing 1, 1, 1, right?
exactly, right. That is why I show you like without writing, no, without any increment, right? So it's always going to be 1, and 1 is
Yeah.
always less than 10, and it's going to be a never-ending loop.
Okay, okay.
So while we have to, the reason to show you is we have to remember about increment or decrement, whatever, while we use while. So that is very, very important. So I can simply, I can show without showing the infinite loop. I mean, without any increment or decrement. I can write condition like with proper initiation, condition, and then increment or decrement. The reason to skip that step is to show you the flaw, using while loop. There is every possibility that you can skip that and it will go to infinite loop. You have to be very careful with that.
So instead of while, if you use if condition, so it will print the same and infinite
Right.
number of i's. Okay.
You can use if condition, something like some break. When this particular condition passes, like works, we can do that. But again, you have to write something right here. You need to increment. You need to let's take again. You need to use something like this. 1 and j is equal to 10, then break. Right? Again, there is in certain case, yes, that's true that we have to use something like true, and if some condition passes, we have to use like this. There are certain cases that we want an infinite loop, and we write an explicit logic, like this, or else we use return. Instead of break, we use some value. And we don't require break in that case. Return obviously breaks the loop.
Okay.
I feel that explaining this, I think this bit complex stuff. I will explain that, and I will explain that later.
Okay.
I think I need to better explain with a proper example, maybe a real-time use case. If you don't understand this, it's fine. Yeah. Any questions?
Understood.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Okay. The same example, this one, can be written in a much better way using list comprehension. Let's see how can we do that. Let me remove this. Let's assume that we want to print 1 to 10, right? Let me copy this. I'm copy this, and I have square brackets, open and close square brackets. I'm copying it here, and copy this I, just I. No, what we got? It's just one single statement, like one single line of code. We got a better result, right? So list comprehension. Any questions on this? List comprehensions are going to be used widely throughout, in NLP. So, and there is no way that you don't understand by the end of this course, but it's better to start with a simple example. Even if you don't, you may ask for in a real-time use case, but don't worry about it. We will look into that in basic projects, and in fact, in almost all the projects. Any questions on this, on how to rewrite a simple for loop using list comprehension? No, if we don't have, if we don't have list comprehension, what we have to do? We have to create some this one, and we need to write a complex logic like this, right? And here we execute that, and we need to print. So we need to write a complex logic like this without list comprehension. List comprehension make things much simple, right? Any
Yes.
questions on this? Yeah. Let me.
Can you explain me the syntax for that list comprehension?
List
Like,
comprehension, yes. Square brackets. You have to wrap it in square brackets.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to write the usual for loop, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at the start, like at the beginning, you have to mention the one that you want to get in the list. Let's take you want to get a list of squares, right? You can do that.
Mm.
Or cubes in the case. Of course, there are much more complex examples, but let's stick to the basic example. You need to understand syntax first.
Okay, so basically you're performing like a for loop operation on top of a list.
Right. So for loop, wrap it in a list. I can say it in that way. A for loop is being wrapped in a list. I can it's better to put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And whatever the output that you want, whatever the variable we have here, we can manipulate it here. So it can be cube or square or +2 or something, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can write even if conditions, but let's not get into that. We will see that later. Yeah. Any questions on if, while, range, for loop? It's not just a list or range. We can even use dictionaries. I have already shown you, I think, an example, right? Okay, let's create a dictionary, and we will loop dictionary. Arvind, I think yesterday I explained you how to create a dictionary using zip method. Explain me how to. What I need is I need a dictionary that has to be created out of 2 lists using zip method, and then you need to loop and get me the output.
Okay. Can I post it after this session?
No, it's better to explain, and I will type it for you. Like you can tell me like how to do that. Don't worry if you don't like. If you have difficulty, I will explain. I will help you in that. But try it at least.
Yeah. Can I look it up, or does it have to be? I need to remember it.
I think it's much simple than. It's a very simple one, right? So you can take 2 lists. It's not much complex. So let's take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, what we can do, instead of writing it manually, we can use the range, right? In fact, we can use list comprehension, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Let's take 0 to 6. Okay, it's going to print 0 to 5, right? Here we have, let's check list 1 and list 2. What we can do, like let's take 0. I think we have to provide manually. There is no other way. 3, 4, 5, right? And let me check whether it is one and the same or not. Length. It has to be one and the same. Yeah, both are one and the same. And now, anyone else know how to make it a dictionary using zip?
Zip.
Zip.
Versus list 1, common list.
Okay. Will that create a dictionary?
List. I mean, you have to wrap it in text.
dict equal to
right, perfect. Yeah. And another thing is, like, whenever you write a function or a method, and there is a possibility that you write some parameters or arguments, right? In that case, give some space. Here I have given a space. For dict, this is an argument, and I have given a space here. This is a good habit. It will come under best practices. And I have given a space here. Make it as a habit, okay? And this is going to create dictionary, right? And let me assign to a variable. Let's check the values now. You can see we got a proper dictionary. Let's check the type, whether it's dictionary or not. Yes, it is a dictionary. Now we need to loop it. How can we do that?
for I in dict, my dict.
My dict, okay.
Hold on, print.
Print what?
I.
I haven't got the expected output. Basically, what I'm looking at here is something like this. And so on and so forth.
You can use key and value for I key comma value.
Perfect. So this is my dict is going to throw a list of tuples. Yesterday I explained you that, right? So basically it's going to throw what it's going to be like this. And so on, like this, right? So we can, like, when we loop it, it's going to be like each time it's going to be one tuple. So we can repeat and extract the data using by mentioning two variables. Here, let's do like this: key. Yeah, here. We may get an error. Why we? And can someone explain me why we got an error?
String you have to give 0.
If it is a number, we have to give string. So key is a number here.
Number.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
We have to wrap it in string. And I made a small mistake here. In fact, it's not a mistake, but it is not a best practice. Can someone explain me how to rectify it?
I did not get your question.
The point is that I haven't, now this is going to print the right output. Maybe another, one second, can't unpack non-iterable int object. Okay, so here I have to mention items. Okay, it has printed, right? Thing is, like, even though it doesn't have any error, we haven't made any mistake. There is one thing that I have explained just now that has not been followed here.
A gap between string and key.
Whenever you write, so this print is a function. So whenever you write, whenever you pass a value to the function, give some space. I explain you here, right? That's the best practice. Like, it's not just Python, any language you take. Okay. So this is the way that we can loop dictionary, right? I forgot to mention items. It is the items that helps us to get the list of tuples, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see that list of tuples. Yeah. Any questions on this? It's not just, okay, any questions till now before we move on? Okay, another thing, like, how can we rewrite this? Let's take, okay, how can we do, okay, how can we rewrite this as a list comprehension? It need not to be exactly like this, but let's take, okay, I want a list of values like 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. So using dictionary, how can we achieve the output like this? I need you to you to explain me in the form of list comprehension instead of this.
P into P.
So we can put this value.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
one?
The same.
First of all, you need to start with square brackets, open and close. Okay, and then
give val, multiply with val.
val.
I just want to multiply with val.
Okay.
Into
val multiplied with val or val plus val or val multiplied by 2. You said val multiplied by val. Is it val multiplied by val or val plus val or val asterisk 2?
Asterisk 2.
Val asterisk 2.
Basically, val plus val is nothing but val asterisk 2, right? So both works. But val multiplied by val is not right.
So that was, I think, val asterisk 2 we have to apply.
A val asterisk 2 is going to be square. Square of some string is not right, right? Let me explain that. 0, 0. No, it's going to throw error. Yes, it works. This works.
Oh.
Right? Okay, val multiplied by 2, then?
And apply the for loop. Same.
Yeah, we can copy it from here, right? Let's copy it. What we got? Any questions on this? Have you got the concept? Like how to rewrite a simple for loop to a list comprehension? Okay, is there any other way that we can improve this?
Actually, I have a question here. So whenever we declare a, loop, we have to end up with a colon, right? So in list comprehension, we don't need to do this.
We're not required to use colon.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can improve it or any questions? Arvind, are you able to follow it?
Yes, sir, I am. Yes, but
okay, is there any way that we can improve this? In fact, I feel that there is some redundancy in this and it is not required. We can get rid of it. This one.
You can use only key here. No need to mention the items and all. For key.
Okay. Key, right? Okay, key. This is what you mean, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but what I got?
Only 5.
Yeah, only it has printed 5. Okay, explain me why I got 5 and explain me the right method to get the right, right method to get the right output.
As per my knowledge, it should print all right, not the last one. Because key is everywhere, right?
Okay, first of all, explain me why I got 5555 like that.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Last element why.
Aravind and Dattatreya, why I got 55? I don't know.
you are doing asterisk 2.
Asterisk 2, okay, but if you look at the values, it's going to be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what I got it here is 5, 5, 5, 5, and this complete list is nothing but 5, 5, right? As per your logic, it should be like 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. Why I got like this?
Maybe it is fetching end of the value.
End of the value. Why it's fetching end of the value?
There's no keys provided, I guess.
So the fact is,
by default, it's
see, the fact is we are mentioning keys here, but we are referring val. In the previous example, I have mentioned key val. So the last value of val is 5. So I have not mentioned. I'm supposed to. No, I'm supposed to write values instead of keys, right? It has to be like this. The reason why we got 5 is because the previous example, the previous execution, the last value was 5. That is why we got 5. But got the point?
Yes.
See, when you write val, you have to write values, not keys.
Yeah.
The point is not just understanding, like when you want to get val, you have to write values. Another thing is like the previous value, the previous execution got affected. That's the reason you got 5. In fact, you are not supposed to get any output here if you mention keys, right? The reason why we got 5 is all because the previous execution and the last value was 5.
Yeah. Basically, the variable did not get initialized. Is that why, or?
The variable got initialized, but the last execution value obviously be stored in memory. Here you have wrongly mentioned key when you want to get val. You have to you have to correct this. Another thing is you need to understand why you got 5. If we wrongly mention keys here, and when we refer val, you should get some null or something like that, right? Or error. The reason why we haven't got error and why we got 5 is all because of the previous execution and the last value was 5, and it is referring that value in memory. It is still not been deleted. It's still there in memory, right?
Yes.
Any questions?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question here. And in our last statement, we are referring actually keys, but for loop, whatever the key, it is a variable actually. It's a variable, not values.
Okay.
Then how it is going to fetch the last execution value? I was not able to get that point.
So when you mention keys here and you're referring keys,
the here key is a variable. It's just a variable, and the val is also just a variable.
Val is just a variable.
At least it has to get the keys of the MyDict. That means it has to get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Instead of getting how it is getting values.
Yeah, when I mention the variable key and when I write val here, so how is going to refer val as key? We have to give the exact name, right?
Yeah.
You have to give the exact name.
So that value is previous execution result, you mean to say.
Exactly. So when we write val, so it's referring the previous value.
Okay. Understood. So maybe we can put val1 then.
When we write val1, so it depends upon the variable that we give it here.
Correct. Yeah.
The variable we declare here. So it's not about val or val1 or value or values. It all depends upon the variable.
Val1 is not previously not declared anywhere, so we may end up with some other wrong values. I think so.
Definitely, it's like it's going to be like this. See, you got an error because it's nowhere defined.
Yeah. Understood, sir. Yeah, thanks.
And whenever you practice, try to test it with different test cases. So don't just stick to the script and keep on executing. You better write code on your own and try to use different test cases. That is the way to learn. And post questions, like post errors or questions that you get in Slack. And it's not just dictionary or list, we can even loop string. Let's see how can we do that. My string machine learning, and let's take char in my string print char. You can see that, right? Even space is also a character. There is some noise, but you can see that we can print even a string. You can even loop a string, isn't it? The same thing, how can I do it by using list comprehension? Instead of this, I need a list of characters. Can someone explain me how can we do that using list
Square
comprehension?
bracket,
Okay.
print char, for char is my string.
For char in my string. Okay, you got it right. Is there any other way to do that other than this? Karthik and Arvind, I already explained this before. Is there any other way to get the same result? Maybe I feel that it is that the method that I'm going to explain you, or the one that I'm ask you now, that is a much better way than using list comprehension. We have already seen that method.
It's a method, sir.
It's a method on string. Can't we use split?
Yes.
But the problem is by default it is space. So if you mention okay an empty separator, I think there is a flaw. So it's not taking up the empty space. It has to, I thought. Empty separator. So what I'm basically expecting here is that M and A, there is an empty space, right? So if we give separator as empty space, I thought it's going to separate it like this. Is there any other way or work around for this?
Where we have a separator between M and A?
Sorry?
M and A, I'm not finding any separator here.
There is no separator, but empty space can be considered a separator, right?
Where it is? I was.
There is no space between. There is no space between M and A.
Correct.
So if there is no space, it is nothing but empty space, right?
Oh, okay.
So we can do that, but split is somehow it's not working that way. It has to.
Okay.
So it all depends upon the separator that we give it here. But it is giving an error. It's not the right way to write a method. Okay, we will see a workaround later. I think there should be a way to do that. All right. Any questions till now before we move to result keywords?
No, nothing.
Yeah. When we declare a variable, let's take a variable and assign a value to it. We need to make sure, we have to make sure that the variables that we use are not keywords. Let's take if. If is a keyword, right? So when we when we give a variable name as like if, it's not going to work just because if is a keyword. It's not just in Python, any language you take. We shouldn't use keywords as variable names, function names, or whatever, right? Something that user defined one. We shouldn't use those keywords. And obviously the next question is what are all the keywords that we have, so that I can cross check it whether the variable or the function, whether I can use those names or not, right? So in that case, what we can do is we can use import keyword. Keyword is a module or library wherein it provides the list of keywords the Python supports. You can see it here, the complete list of keywords. It's not, these are just keywords. These are not built-in functions and all. So to get the complete list of built-in functions and other things, you can use built-ins. Import built-ins. You need to use dir to get the complete list of built-ins. You got the complete list. So whenever you declare a variable, whenever you write a variable name, or whenever you mention a function name, please cross check with these two if you get an error. The better way to cross check it is let's keyword kw list plus, this is a list, right? Built-ins is a list. If you check this, let me check the type. This is a list, and this one is also a list. We can combine both, right? Sorry, type. This is a list. So let's combine both. Here we got a no. So when we concatenated two lists, what happens? It's going to create another list, right? For example, let's take my list 1. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my list 2, something like 6, 7, 7, 8, 9. And if you concatenate two lists, what happens? It is going to add all the elements and it's going to create another list, right? The same thing, the same logic applies here too. And whatever the keyword that you want to check, let's take if you want to check whether it is in the list or not, you can use this method. Much better way, I mean, there is a much better way to write this logic. Keyword, let me be key, and you can use this, right? Or else you can write a function def keyword check key return. So when you return this, see what happens. Key, I can get rid of this, and then keyword check. Let's take, you want to check whether if is a keyword or not. Yes, it is. Is false a keyword? Yes, it is. False a keyword? No, because it has to be capital F. Let's take falsify. Is it a keyword? No, it's not a keyword. Got the point? You're not supposed to use keywords or built-in names, built-in method names as variable names or use a different function. So in order to cross-check whether a particular variable name or some name exists in the form of keyword or built-in method, it is better to cross-check like in this way. But write a method or write a function, use a different function that is going to concatenate keyword or KW list and DAR built-ins and cross-check it this way. The reason why I have mentioned return is it is going to return the value that it throws. Any questions till now? I mean, any questions on this or any confusion? It looks like no one understood this. Maybe
No,
I will take
No,
no, it was very
basically you can simply cross-check with this, but it is better to build a user-defined function that helps in cross-checking the keyword. That's what I'm trying to do. So I have concatenated both DR built-ins and keyword KW list, right? Aravind?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any questions on this?
Not really. No.
Okay. Can someone explain me what I did? What I did just now, like how to cross-check a keyword, the right way to cross-check a keyword.
input keyword.
Okay.
From that, extract keyword dot kw list.
First of all, let's import both the libraries.
Yeah.
Import, what is the other one?
Built-in.
Built-in. Yeah.
Built-ins. Okay. The next one. The next step.
Then create a list with keyword kw list and the IR built-in list. Concatenate it. Okay. Then write a method to identify the proper key. So def.
So is a user-defined function, we declare it in this way. Usually in other languages, it's going to be like function name and parameters, and then it's going to be like this, right? Whereas in Python, it's going to be like def and function name, and then instead of this, we use colon. Okay, yeah. Now tell me what function name. Is it okay to use fn, name, or any other?
That is fine, sir.
Okay.
Then we have to search for this proper.
First of all, you need to, when you write a function, user function, it's better to,
we have to give the argument.
Accept, and
then key is present in that concatenation or not. So
okay, so how do we do?
Key in keyboard dot kw list plus dr
this one, right? This one, right? Yeah. Okay. Will that work?
Return.
Okay, return.
Yeah. Now you can give some keyword.
Lambda. It's true because it exists. It's a keyword.
Yeah.
Aravind and Karthik got this point, like how to cross-check a keyword to make sure that we are not using the reserved keywords or built-in method names.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
And the next one is user-defined function. I think we already discussed about user-defined functions, how to declare user-defined function here. So we use
can I get the length of PW list and built-ins?
Okay.
The length of list. Can I?
It's going to be very exhaustive, obviously. 153.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah, please.
So usually, like in other programming languages, we can't use the keyword. Like even if we accidentally use it, it'll not allow us to use it, right? It'll throw some error message.
Yeah.
So would it do the same thing, or will it allow for us to use the keywords?
No, it's not going to allow. So just now I showed you an example, that if equal to file, I tried to use this, I got an error, syntax error, invalid syntax.
Okay.
Yeah. So thing is, like, it's better, we need to have a better methodology to cross-check whether it exists or not. Instead of blindly, write some variable name or function name. We should have some mechanism to cross-check it, right? That's what I'm trying to do here.
Okay.
And Dattatreya, to your question, it is 188, 153 and 35, 188. Right? And any other question? I think it's Karthik or something. Karthik, any questions?
Yeah, nothing.
Or is it boring?
No, it's not boring.
Yeah. Is there no predefined function? Like, does it have to be like a user-defined function? There should be a predefined function, right, to check this?
We don't have, I'm not aware about any function or built-in function that helps in cross-checking the keyword. I think it's better. Okay. We have libraries. I think it's better to build in this way. Yeah, as far as I know, I'm not aware about any such function that helps in doing what we did here.
Okay.
Yeah, and the lambda functions, very interesting one. Lambda functions here. Lambda function is like this. Okay, fn name. Okay, the same one. Let's take the same example. Fn name or keyword check. Return what we did here. Return keyword.kw list. Sorry, key in, right? plus and then what else, dr built-ins, right? So if you want to write a lambda function or anonymous function is nothing but a nameless function. And why we use a nameless function, we will see that later in basic projects. For now, understand that there is a way that you can write in one line without any function name, like this. And the same this one, let me rewrite this as a lambda function. You don't require the name, right? The first rule is anonymous function doesn't have any name, and you don't require df. In fact, you require to use the keyword lambda to indicate that it is a lambda function. And you don't require any parentheses here, and you can write in one line. And when you write it one line, you don't require return. This is a lambda function. You can assign it in another variable. I mean, you can assign it to another variable. Like let's take keyword check lambda. I can do that, and I can use it as a function. For example, false. See, it works. Understood what I did here? Let me show it again. Let me rewrite this as a lambda function. I don't require any name here. So instead of def, you need to write lambda. I don't require any round brackets or parentheses here. You can write the statement in one line. And when you write in one line, you don't require return. And you can either assign to another variable or not, it's up to you. And you may ask me a question like, when do we use when do we use lambda function like this? I mean, without even assigning to a variable, to another variable, when are we going to use this lambda function in another method or function? I will show that later. For now, try to understand how to rewrite a simple function to a lambda function. Got my point? The point is this, like, we need to understand how to rewrite a simple function to a lambda function. And here I have used another variable. I have directly assigned to another variable. If at all this is the case, I can better write it as in this form, right? Rather than this. There is a specific case where we use this one, lambda, this like in this form, directly as an argument in another method or function. But if I explain that now, it's going to be more confusing. For now, stick to a point that how to rewrite a simple function to a lambda function. Right? So, got my point? Arvind?
Yeah.
Okay, let
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Let me delete this. Okay, can someone explain me how to rewrite it as this one as lambda function? Let's start with Karthik. Karthik?
That's yeah, lambda.
Lambda.
And then this key.
Okay, let's do this. Let me copy the above one and modify it rather than writing from scratch. Okay, tell me how to do that.
Yeah, you can remove keyword check.
Keyword check, okay.
And then, I mean, that rounded bracket.
Okay, it's not required.
And
Around
also,
arguments.
you can return, delete the return, remove it. Return.
Okay, delete return, and then?
Yeah,
That's it?
yes.
Okay, and any other? You think
Change
this works?
definition to lambda.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, okay. 1 second, I'm getting a call. Yeah, tell me. Lambda, instead of df, you need to write lambda to indicate that it's a lambda function. Yeah, and then what else can be done?
There is indentation problem here.
So we need to write it in one line.
One line.
The whole purpose of lambda function is when we need some function on fly, without writing an explicit function, user-defined function. How can we pass it as an argument? Okay, if you don't understand what I said now, it's fine. So try to understand that lambda functions are going to be are nameless functions, something that we can write in one line. If at all that is the case, instead of writing an exhaustive code like this, we can write it in one line. Okay. Yeah. And Dattatriya, explain me like how to the same thing, repeat it.
Okay. So just remove df, replace df with lambda.
All right. Okay.
Use the same keyword.
Lambda, right?
Yeah, lambda.
Okay.
And just use only key. Just remove the keyword check and everything.
Okay.
And do the indentation properly.
I mean, bringing it in one line, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
And then
remove the return.
Return.
That
okay.
is not required. So in keyword, yeah, that's all.
But I got an error. Why I got an error?
A lambda you have to check.
Lambda is small. L is should be in small case.
Okay.
I intentionally read it as a capital L. I thought you will observe that.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
I think Aravind already explained this, right? Let's try it. Yeah, Aravind.
Yeah. So it will be a lambda
Uh-huh.
key. So you can remove keyword and then the brackets.
Uh-huh.
Put it in a single line.
Okay.
And then remove returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then can we execute this?
All right. Yeah. Good. And you may feel it's silly, like to ask you to repeat it, but it definitely helps.
No, this definitely helps. I don't mind doing this.
Yeah. And the last topic is file level operations. And
sir, I have some doubt here.
Yeah, tell me.
Instead of writing this completely, so why can't I simply mention the expected key? That means if in keyword dot key list plus d or built in, it will also do the same result.
So okay, you mean to say that without using key in?
Yeah, instead of writing this either method or lambda function, I can directly use whatever the keyword I want to check it. For suppose, yeah,
like this, right? Return like this, right?
no need to use the return also, because in function will check
is what you mean.
Keyword.
This is what you mean.
Not key. Maybe can you put false? Just replace key with false.
All
Capital
right.
F.
So key equal to false or falsify. This is what you mean, right? This works.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Everyone understood his question. His point is, why are we writing a user-defined function or a lambda function instead of writing a simple code like this? This is much more simple, right?
Yes.
Arvind and Karthik understood his question?
Yes.
Why are we unnecessarily messing up this, like, writing user-defined function, lambda function? Basically, there are certain methods. Let's take df. In pandas, you will come across this. df.apply. Apply, what it does is, data frame is nothing but table, right? So when we do a row by row operation, so if we provide, in apply, there are certain ways that we can provide a function to an argument or a parameter. So what it does in this case is, it is going to take each row by row, and then it is going to apply that function on that row. Whereas in this case, there is no way that you can provide it as an argument. So when we have something like lambda function, you can simply replace it like this, or else you can replace it like this. I mean, without lambda. Okay, if you don't understand this, it's fine. Basically, the reason why we need to have user-defined function, lambda function is, there are certain cases that certain methods will provide parameters, and in a way that we can pass a function to it and do a row by row operation. And pandas you'll get a better clarification on this. There is a reason why we use a user-defined function or lambda function instead of blindly, instead of with this sort of code. Okay, there are use cases, definite use cases that lambda function or user-defined functions is going to be helpful. Any questions on this, Karthik and Arvind? If you don't understand what I said just now, don't worry. You will definitely understand that when we start getting into when we start this panda section, especially apply or map.
Okay.
Dattatreya? Yeah. Dattatreya, I think is that your question is that clear?
Yes, yes, clear.
Maybe use
Yes.
cases I haven't shown you yet. I will definitely show you that. There are definitely certain use cases where the lambda function or user function is going to be helpful instead of this method, the one that you said. And the next one is file IO operations. File IO operations is a bit interesting. Let me, I think we already have a file. Yeah, we have a file, test.txt. Instead of this, is there any way that I can, let me show you that. Open with, not notes, okay. Okay, here we have a text file, right? So if you want to read data from a text file, I mean, file in general, the way we can do it is open, right? What is that? Test.txt, right? Here we got something, some binary, no, some code. Let's okay, let's assign to f some file name. Okay, if you want to read this, you need to use f.read method. F here indicates this f. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, if I mention file, you have to write file here, and the output I haven't got it in right format, so use print. What happens? You haven't got anything. The reason behind that is once we read the data, so it's going to be like this. Once we read the data, the cursor is at the end. It's going to move to the end, and you don't have any data after this, right? After this is the 7th line. After this sentence, you don't have anything. Like initially, it's going to be, the cursor is going to be placed here. Once we read, once we make use of read method, it's going to come here. And if you try to read it again, it's not going to get anything. That is why you got a blank result. Let me read it again, and you got the right result. Got the point? The point is when you want to read a file, you need to make use of open. By default, it is in read mode, R. So not to mention R here. And you need to assign to a variable. And if you want to read the data, you need to use a read method. The reason to use print is it is going to interpret the data in proper way. If we don't use print, it is going to print like slash and all. See, you can see that, right? It's not being interpreted in a proper way. That is why I have used print. And sorry, when I execute this, I haven't got any output. Can someone explain me why we haven't got any output? Just now I explained that.
Because it reaches the end of the file.
Right.
So after end of the file, no data. Yeah.
Right. So initially when we open that, the cursor is going to be here at the start. And when we read the data, read is going to completely read the data. So it doesn't matter how many lines it has. So at the end, it's going to place the cursor here. And if you try to read it again, it's not going to print anything because it doesn't have anything, right? So it's only like it's going to move forward, not backward. And there is another way. I don't know, once you read the data, whatever the operations you do, you need to close it. Otherwise, it's going to stay in memory. Okay. Can someone explain me the code? Tell me the code, how to read a text file. Let's start with Arvind.
Sir, I can't repeat the syntax, sorry.
Okay, we'll do one thing. Let's start with Dattatreya and then Karthik and then you. You have to explain it,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, definitely.
Dattatreya.
Use somewhere where equal to.
Where equal to, okay. Where equal to.
Open. Give the file name.
Okay, so here we have a txt file right in the same directory. So I have I not to mention something like f colon folder. No, I have not mentioned anything. I have straight away mentioned the file just because I have test.txt in the same directory where I have this file, Jupyter file. Okay. Otherwise, I have to follow either absolute path or relative path to refer that file. I will show you in short while. But for now, yeah, go ahead. By default, it is in read mode. Okay, not to mention it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. And
then print. Where dot read.
Okay, where dot read.
Okay. Open brackets. It's a function, sir, actually.
Okay,
Read
it's
function.
a method. Yeah.
Yeah, method. Yeah.
And you need to make sure once you read, you need to make sure it has
close.
Yeah. Right.
Where that close.
Perfect. Right. Okay. Karthik, it's your turn.
Basic. Yeah. F equal to file name. Read. Open. Open. That file name. And then you have to print.
Okay. Print what?
That af dot read function.
Okay. And then
F close.
F close. Okay.
F dot.
Right. Perfect. Arvind, it's your turn.
Yeah. So file equals to open. And then the file name. And then print method.
Why are we using print? Why can't we use directly like file dot something?
Print because we want to print it and see the file contents.
Okay, what if I write file dot something?
File dot read.
Okay, can't I get output? Still I got the output, right? Why are we using print? Without using print, I got the output, right? So by default, Jupyter is going to print the last statement, if at all it is printable.
But it's not printing in like a readable format. It's not taking the special character like /n. Right, it's not reading the line breaks.
So if I execute this now, what I would get?
You'll get everything in like every line in a separate line. Like it'll recognize a line break basically.
Yeah, I executed it. I haven't got anything. I got blank. Want me to execute again? Let me execute it. Yeah. Executing it. You can see the number, right? Incrementing.
Yeah.
It's not printing anything.
So it automatically opens in a read format. So it's assigning to the file variable, and then because file could be like a keyword. So maybe instead of file, can we take maybe like X?
Okay, X, okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, X dot read.
read.
Yeah.
Okay, I got output. And execute now. Look at blank again.
Let's see.
I explained you, right? So when you open the file and when you read it, it's going to read the complete contents. So it's going to read the complete set of statements or lines, sentences here. So when we use read method, so initially it's going to be here, and after reading it, it's going to be here. So when you read it again, it is not going to move forward. It's only going to move forward, not backward.
I see. That's because that's because we are not opening the file again in a read mode. So
no, the point is, like, once I read it, so when I execute this first line, x equal to open, and when I read it, I got the output. But when I read it again, I haven't got anything, just because that the cursor has moved to the end of the file. I mean, the text in it.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And at the end, what else you have to do?
And then X dot close.
Right. So if you don't close it, what happens?
If we, I mean, basically we are, closing the file. So next time we want to reopen and reread the file, it will be accessible.
Okay, so I have not mentioned any close here. Let me read this again. I got the
Well,
output.
if you're in like a write mode, let's say you're giving it a write mode. If you don't close the file, then somebody else is trying to read or write. It'll not allow.
The point is, it's going to stay in memory. So when I can still read it, you can see that I can read it. The point is that variable is going to stay in memory.
Okay.
Of course, in this case, it has rewritten, but if we don't mention close, it is going to stay in memory and for infinite period of time. So what happens is when we keep on reading files, writing files, so what happens? Like, it's going to overfill the memory, right? In that case, what happens? Like, it is going to spill out to the disk, the hard disk.
Okay.
And we will start observing performance issues. So it's always the right practice to close it. There is a better way to do that using with. So let's take if. So here, instead of x mentioned here, I mean, instead of assigning it here, we can use as f colon f dot read. This automatically closes it using with. Got my point? Here we got it, and we not to mention f dot close anymore, because automatically this keyword helps us to make sure that it's going to be closed once we read the data, once this operation has been done or completed. Okay, this is much better way to write the code rather than this method. The next one is, once we read the code, let's take this one itself. Once we read the code, let me execute this. I read the code, and when I tried to read the code again, I got blank, right? Because of the cursor has reached to the end of the text, right? There is a workaround to come out of that issue. So x dot seek 0, if you mention 0, it's going to come to the starting point again. And if we can read it again. You can see seek, I can read it. I have not opened the text file again. You can see the C text. But if I execute again, I got blank, right? Let me go back and execute the seek, and I got the right output. Got my point? Basically, what it does here is, where is the file? Here it is. So when we read the data, it's going to read all the content. It's going to reach to the end, right? When I mention seek 0, it's going to move here. If it is seek 1, it's going to move here. Seek 2, it's going to move here. Okay. So when I
So
mention seek
without
0,
using seek 0, can we not just execute open? That will also do the same thing, right? Without seek, if you re-execute.
instead of opening it again, so inside like you need to write a function that in certain point you need to jump back to the start of the text. In that case, instead of opening it again, it is better to use seek method, right? Yes,
I
of
see.
course,
Okay.
back again, but this is a much better way to do that. Let me show you, like instead of seek 0, let's mention seek 1. What happens? Here T has been missed. Observe that. Have you observed
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Because seek 1 is going to move the cursor here. It's going to skip the first letter. First character. It's going to move here. Let me show you with seek 5 or something. What we got? TH. In fact, the lot got missed. Can you explain me why I got is first line? I have mentioned 5 here, seek 5.
Because 5 letters are removed.
But it has printed it from is, right? It has printed from.
Even the blank value, it's taken.
Yeah, blank. Yes, space also.
No, the point is here it has printed is first line, but it has I have mentioned seek 5, but it has skipped only the first 2 characters.
No, not
TH,
first 2. Not
okay.
first 2. 5 letters. 5 letters,
Okay, so
including
you
space.
mean to say that it is not this is not this one, right?
Yes. The second
this
is
one.
This is. Yes.
Okay. So the THIS 4 letters, 4 characters, and space is another character, 5 characters. So
Yes.
the cursor has moved to here and it has read from here.
Yes.
Yeah. And the another thing is, like, we don't have, it's not just read, we have another function like read line. It is going to read line by line. Let's see how it works. Let me use this same one. Let me remove the seek and let's read line. What we got? This is first line. Let me execute this again. This second line. This is third line. This is fourth line. This is fifth line and sixth line, seventh line, and blank. Understood? Read is going to read all the text in the file, whereas read line is going to read line by line. And once it reaches the end, it is going to function just like the way read works. So it's not going to print anything. Go blank. Again, we need to use seek to go back instead of opening it back again, right? Any questions till now?
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, like if you did not close that file, it will be the memory will be, remain. It will be stay. Correct.
It's
Don't
going
close.
to that particular variable and the corresponding data is going to stay in memory. But when you read it back again with the same variable, it is going to overwrite.
Okay. But my question is, like, Python actually, as I read in Google, but it will take care of this memory management. If you are not using it, it will remove it. Correct.
Okay. See, right. So what is that? Basically, what does that mean is there is something called memory allocation and memory reallocation. Okay. So when you delete some data, so when initially what in C or C++ we write something like allocation and alloc and dealloc. So when you read data, and let's take when you deleted some data, right? When you read data, before you read data, you need to allocate some memory. When you delete the data, you need to deallocate that deleted data. So when you delete something, it is not going to delete permanently. You have to deallocate it. Whereas in Python, it is going to, once you delete it, this the memory manager, the garbage collector runs on a certain interval, checks the deleted data and is going to deallocate it. So deallocation is not same as deletion.
So you mean that it will be stay in memory? maybe sometime.
Which one? So in
The
C,
deallocation.
we explicitly write logic so that the deleted content we remove it from memory. Whereas in Python, we don't, in fact, we don't have access to delete the data permanently from memory. So we can delete it. Delete doesn't mean it's going to delete it, but it's going to mark as delete so that garbage collector comes in and deallocate it. So there is always some confusion between deletion and deallocation. So if you understand that, you will understand the logic behind it.
So when does it delete? It always stays forever in the memory?
No, it's not going to stay forever. So garbage, there's something called garbage collector. It is going to check on frequent on a certain interval, like every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds or every 1 minute. Usually it's going to be 60 seconds or something. So that automatically triggers up and checks any deleted data. I mean, deleted data in the sense anything that is being marked as delete, and it's going to delete it.
Okay. And when does it does the reallocation?
Allocation is whenever we write whenever we create a variable or functioning or something like that.
Okay.
Automatically allocates memory, right? So allocation and deallocation is something that automatically happens, internally by Python, whereas C, C++, we need to write explicit logic. The advantage of that is it is completely in our hands. Right, in C we write an explicit logic so that it's completely in our hands, whereas in Python or any high-end language like JavaScript and all, it is going to be done internally by some garbage collector.
Okay.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to mention, read line, find. Okay, we haven't written the data. By default, I told you that it's going to be in read mode. So we have something called W. Here, if you try to read it, you got an error because write mode helps you to write the data, not read data. Okay. So you need to be careful, like you need to mention slash and otherwise it's going to print in the same line. This is 8th line. Okay, let me close this and try to check the file, whether it has been reflected or not. Where is that file? Where is that file? Okay, here. So what happened here is it has completely overwritten the data, right? And slash and I have mentioned, and it has completely overwritten. So write is going to overwrite the data. There is an alternative, I think, it's append something. Let me create it. Let me rewrite it again. This is first line. This is second line. Let me delete the 8th this line. This is third line. Use append now A, and I'm going to write this fourth line, right? How many lines do we have? Third, okay. This is fourth line. Okay, now close. Let me close this back and open it again. Now you can see it properly. When you use W, it is going to override the data, whereas when we use A, it is going to append to the existing data. The reason I have used slash n is when I don't write slash n, it is going to print here. It's going to print like this. Okay. Any questions?
So can you apply
Between
slash n in this text in any end of the line?
I didn't get you. Slash n.
Can you go to line number 2? At the
Mm-hmm.
end, can you add slash n?
Okay.
Gap some slash n. Give some space and the slash. Yeah. Can you execute the same here now?
You mean read mode?
Yeah. Oh, in write mode also. That is also.
What do you mean write mode? Write mode, you mean you want to?
Oh, okay. In append mode. Sorry.
Okay. In append mode?
Yeah.
What do you want
Try
to
to
do?
execute this. Yeah. Try to execute the same. Yeah. Execute it. So simply.
This one? This one?
Yeah.
But if you write this one again, it is going to print like this, right?
No, I just want to check is in our print, is this /n appears or not? Because in
Still didn't get
default,
your question. The point is, okay, let's wait. Like instead of append and all, when you have two /n's to check whether /n been printed or not, it's better to cross check with read mode, right?
okay.
And what we got? You got /n/n.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, one more
Uh,
question. Is there any
yeah.
possibility to get only the expected line, read line?
Expected line, you can use read line, but you need to mention the seek, the proper number to that seek. Basically, what we do is we need to search for that particular sentence and find out the first character of that sentence and find out the index of that and use it in seek.
Okay.
Okay, basically what we do is, let's take, you want to read only this line. So you need to
Yeah.
search for the whole text and find out where this line is. And we need to find the character of this, I mean, the index of this, and you need to mention that particular index in seek and get that line. Okay, that is going to be much more complex, but don't worry about it. We will see that later. Yeah, any questions till now on this? Write, read, append, why are we closing it? Why we use with, and difference between read line and write?
No, nothing.
Yeah, and there is another parameter. Yeah, someone asked a question. Go ahead. Yeah, someone saying something.
No, I was just saying no question.
Yeah, all right. So there is another parameter, R plus. R plus going to read and write both. Let me read this data. We have read the data. Let me remove the slashes. Messing up. Okay. Let me read it back again. This one, before I close this, I can write. Let me, I'm not sure whether it's going to overwrite or not. Let's see. And close it. Let me close this and close this back and read it again. So it has added, right? It has appended, in fact. I can read the data and I can write the data. Whereas in R mode, I can only read. And W mode, I can only write. Whereas in R plus mode, I can read and write. Right? Any questions till now?
Why we are getting 19 there when you execute this? The total letters?
19, yeah, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, and slash and includes is going to be 19. Yeah, 19. Is it interesting or boring?
No, interesting.
While operations are very interesting subject. The only thing is you need to try with different test cases and see how it works. What we have discussed how to open a file, and we have seen alternative also with, and the difference between with open and open. And let me ask you this question again. Why are we using, and what is the difference between open and with open?
With open works without closing of the file also.
Okay, so without
Yeah.
close, it's going to stay in memory, right? It's going to be a disadvantage. So why are we using with open then?
So we don't have to close that. We don't have to use a close method.
Why?
Because in only open, it will not print actually. With open, it will print also.
Right.
I didn't get you. I didn't get your question. Like with open?
With open, you can print whatever there in that file. But if you use only
Okay.
open, It will, I mean, as I said, like it will go to the end line.
Okay. So you mean to say that there is an advantage of using with, so that I can write, it's going to be like a for loop or while loop that I can read at the same point, at the same block of
Line.
code.
Yes.
So is that the advantage of using with? There's no other advantage. My question is, someone said I need not to write close, but if we don't close it, there's going to be a disadvantage that is going to stay in memory.
It's always, I mean, it's also clear that using with.
What do you mean by clear?
That memory, and whatever, if it is open.
Yeah,
so if
the
you
close,
use with.
when we use with, it means that once it completes the execution of that block of code, it is going to close it automatically. That is what it means. So leave about, it's not just about writing block of code in one cell. It's not just about that. Even we can write here, right? Instead of that, we can write here. It's not going to be a big deal. The point is automatically closes, it automatically deallocates it. That's the point. Yeah, any questions? Especially, I think this is a very good question. Unlock and dealloc. I think it's not part of the. I mean, I didn't plan to explain it, but that's a good question. Someone asked this.
How do you take care of, I don't know if you're gonna like talk about this later, but how do you take care of the special characters within a file, like carriage returns or line feeds and things like that?
Okay.
How do you?
We use regular expression to extract or clean data. So once we get into regular expressions, I will speak about that. Basically, we need to, so in order to clean some dirty data or special characters or to remove it, we need to have some mechanism to extract it first, right? And then we can delete whatever we want. Whether we want to delete or not, it's up to us. So we use basically a list comprehensions or some other mechanism with the help of regular expressions.
Okay.
Yeah, we will see that in pandas, and we have a dedicated section on regular expression. Probably I will combine both pandas and regular expressions. Instead of explaining it later, maybe I will explain at the end of, I will explain regular expressions at the end of pandas. Yeah, they're very powerful methods, to extract or clean data. We can do that.
I have a question on like a separate topic, like a usual work type setting. We get a lot of files like spreadsheets or comma separated files and all that. Okay. So usually what we do is like we either like work on spreadsheets or load that into like a database and then work on the database, right? So similarly, can we load those files into like pandas or something like that, and then do all the manipulations on those files?
Yes, we can do that. In fact, pandas, 70 to 80% data analysis, reading data or writing data, we are going to use pandas itself.
Okay, and so how like can we upload like huge files like or does it have some type of like limitation or good performance when we only load like certain number of rows?
It all depends upon the amount of memory that you have it in the system. It does not depend upon Python or pandas or any other library that we use. It all depends upon the amount of memory. And some cases, if it is being spilled to hard disk, if it is SSD, it's going to perform much better.
Okay.
If hard disk is going to slow up. But it's a whole different topic. But it all depends upon the amount of memory you have.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Sir, yeah. Are we discussing about different file formats like JSON and?
Yeah, we do have, right? In fact, even demo itself, I explain you that there are different formats, and in pandas we have that. Yeah.
Okay. So.
API, HTML, PDF, Excel, CSV, tab file, tab with file. There are different formats. In fact, there are n number of ways to do that. It's not possible to discuss all, but we will definitely discuss a good number of formats and how to read and write. That helps in, if you feel confident, then it's not much difficult to work on other formats that we don't discuss. But connecting it and reading it is not going to be difficult at all. So when you Google it, you will immediately get a chunk of code for that. So don't worry, reading or writing. Okay, that is not a big deal at all. Yeah. Any questions or feedback? My suggestion is, like, if you keep on interacting and asking questions, or when I ask questions, if you answer, it will be more interesting. Otherwise, it's going to be boring. That's what I feel. And the reason to repeat things is, like, it will make, it's not just I explain, you listen. It will make you understand. And of course, you have to practice on your own. Right? Oh, Karthik got disconnected for technical. His laptop got shut down. And Aravind and Dattatreya, am I audible to you?
Yes, I totally agree
Yes.
with what you just said.
Yeah. And by Wednesday, Aravind, please make sure that you complete all the videos, exercises. Yeah, I know that you have a lot of work, especially it's a peak period, right?
Yeah, especially with this COVID-19. Yeah. But yeah, I'll certainly finish them by Wednesday.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to pile up, and you'll feel difficult. That's all.
Sure.
Any trouble or any questions or suggestions, always welcome, and you can communicate through Slack or WhatsApp. But I prefer Slack.
Sure.
You can
Okay.
even do personal chat, direct messages using.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions or feedback before we end up?
No from my side, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Sir, we can stop recording, hopefully.
All right.